The following episode will contain spoilers. You have been warned.
You're listening to Cinema IRL, the podcast that throws you into the movie and asks the question, what would you do? Can you escape your past? Are you sure? Amber and Scott discuss Rob Peace and what they would do to be able to advance their lives when stuck in their past. And now, Cinema IRL.
I wish I could switch places for just one day.
What would you do?
Put yourself in my shoes.
How do we handle this?
What would you do?
Put yourself in my position.
What would you do?
Now it's your turn.
I really like this film a lot.
This was a good film. I think you liked it more than I did. That's not to say I didn't like it. I did. It was a good story.
It was. So this episode, we are talking about Rob Peace. Rob Peace grew up in an impoverished section of Newark and later graduated from Yale on scholarship. Peace led a dual life in academia, earning degrees in molecular biophysics and biochemistry, while also selling marijuana to aid his father, who he believed was unjustly imprisoned for murder. And there's all of that and more. It was a fascinating story about someone's drive to do good and to create community and to lift people up and to support them, and sometimes at your own peril.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Like, it was interesting because there was definitely those times where he was like, I'm going to do what I have to do. And if it's skirts the other side of the law, then so be it.
But he actually held that line for quite some time, saying, you know, I know the things I can do, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to walk the straight line. And it wasn't until his dad was diagnosed with cancer while he was imprisoned that Rob felt he really needed to do more. And at that point, he had already invested so much time in researching how to get his father out. He had actually gotten him out for a short period of time because of some sort of legal filing he had made.
Sixth Amendment appeal.
Yeah. And when his father had cancer and said he had 6 months to live, that's when Rob said, okay, I've got to do something. But in fairness, his dad also put a lot of pressure on him. Like, I'm not going to get out of here. You're all I have. You got to get me out. You got to get me out. And at that point, that's when Rob said, okay, I need to get money for medication for my dad so he can live longer. And I've got to find a lawyer who can get him out.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. I mean, if you're in that situation, like, because that's what we do here, we put ourselves in a situation where your loved one's been imprisoned and you believe falsely, and they never definitively said, though they extremely heavily imply that he was innocent.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you think you have a loved one that's been put in jail unfairly, I would be willing to do a lot of whatever it took to get them out.
Yeah. It's a hard situation because my life experience has evolved to a point where I really do see both sides of the coin with this one. Because on one hand, the dad knew his son was brilliant. He always had been, always been crazy smart. And if there was anyone that could help him get out of prison, he knew it was Rob. And on the other side of the coin, he put all of that pressure on a young man who was working so hard to make something out of his life, who had managed to get a scholarship to Yale, was performing really well in Yale, and wanted to grow up to be a scientist, to open his own lab and cure people and make the world a better place. And when all that pressure is riding on a child, and in this case, an only child, which I relate to, that's a lot to put on someone.
Yeah, it really is. I don't know. I mean, if you're the dad, He
really didn't have anybody. I mean, his peer group certainly was not qualified to be helping him.
Yeah, and he basically was looking at his son like, you're my only hope.
Yeah.
If you have been unjustly imprisoned.
Yeah.
Like, being in prison is bad enough, but going to prison for a crime you didn't actually commit?
Yeah. I can't even imagine. And we did speak about a similar topic before when we discussed the movie Sing Sing. And the concept of what would you do if you were unjustly imprisoned. I can't even imagine the despair and anger and hopelessness that would rise up in me being in a situation like that.
Yeah, I'd lose it. I mean, I'd lose my mind.
And so to take this, what would you do a little bit further? If you had a kid, super bright kid, capable of so much, and really was your only hope, where, if at any place, would you draw a line of what you expect that kid to do? Would it just be like, hey, I'm your dad and you've got to get me out? Like, it's all on you. You've got to do this. You've got to save me. Or realizing that he's just one guy, smart or not.
It's just a really hard line to draw because...
It is. It's very complicated.
I mean, there are things that people maybe could figure out and do for themselves, but they don't, and they get help. And then there's things that there's just no way they could do it themselves. It's not possible. And you really become somebody's only hope. And I mean, when that person's your parent, it's hard to not want to do everything you can to help that person.
It's difficult because so many good-hearted people go down in flames in one way or another because they take on so much from others. And I don't know where that balance is. If it's, as you just kind of alluded to slightly, if I think my line would have to be, someone has to be helping themselves to warrant my help. Like, you can't just sit back and be like, you got to fix this for me. Whether it's you're incarcerated or whatever the situation is someone has to take ownership of their own situation and also be working along with you. Now, maybe their contributions can't be as significant, but I think it's important for people to take ownership of their own situation, problem, crisis, whatever it is. And then if they bring someone else to help and be like, okay, I don't have your smarts, but what can I do? And maybe that's where the balance is, or the part where you just...
Well, we don't know what the father was or wasn't doing to help himself.
No, we're just talking in general. If this was me or you or any one of us in this situation, is you have to, I don't know, I guess that's where my line would be, is like, I can't, and this is something that I have come to really embrace over the last year and a half or so, is I can't want something for you more than you want it yourself. And in the case of his dad, absolutely he wanted it. And if I was in those shoes, I guess maybe we just didn't see the collaboration. It was just always dumping on the son. You've got to do this for me. You got to get me out. You got to figure this out. My date's coming up. Now I have cancer. And I guess I just felt a lot of empathy for Rob, who's trying to build a life and doing an amazing job of getting into Yale, working, being on the swim team, and doing good in his studies, getting recognized with an additional lab access.
But I mean, there is the point here that at the end, everything he was doing ended up leading to his untimely demise.
Yeah, and that was so sad to watch, because wrapping up what happened very quickly is Rob wanted to go back and help his community and lift other people up, because his mom was basically said, lift yourself up and get the heck out of here. And Rob said, well, I want to lift myself up and I want to come back and I want to lift up others. And he started a real estate venture to buy foreclosed homes, which were just basically being havens for drug dealers and gangs and whatnot, and flip those houses and turn neighborhoods into good neighborhoods again, and was being really successful at that until, unfortunately, the 2008 meltdown and everything turned upside down. And Rob wanted to make it right with the people who that had affected, mostly his two best friends, who had invested and helped him with this endeavor.
Well, and as you and I have talked about, I myself was very greatly affected during the 2008 meltdown, and like all sorts of just horrible negative financial things happened to me.
And I got laid off as a result of that. So
like
some of us were impacted.
Yeah, out of nowhere. I mean, basically lost a business and a house, and all that value that you had just shrinks up into nothing virtually overnight. And yeah, all of a sudden now you have all of this debt on houses and you're completely underwater on them. And
well, and when you were saying it all wound up ending very poorly for Rob, what he ends up doing to get money back to his friends who had been partners in this venture is to go back to producing drugs like he had in college to help his dad to pay for the lawyer and the medication, and says, okay, I'm going to raise the money. We're going to pay off all of our creditors. I'm going to pay you guys back what you invested. I'm going to do this for 6 weeks. Then I'm going to go to grad school. And sad ending. Obviously, the local drug dealers did not like someone else coming in on their business, and he was shot and killed.
Yeah.
Really, really heavy stuff, and just so tragic because he truly was bright beyond any state of what is normal for the rest of us, and wanted to do good, really wanted to help his community, help his friends, help the neighborhood, and lift up everyone. And one of the things that stuck out to me is in college is there was different factions of people, and Rob united those factions and was just really good at creating community and bringing people together. And to see someone with those skills and abilities have such a tragic end to their lives, dying in their 20s, is such a loss.
Yeah, no, it really, really is. But it does. So there are the two instances between like when he needed money. I mean, the first time it's to get his dad out of prison and help make it so he doesn't die of brain cancer, or at least not as early. And the second time was just to repair a financial situation.
Well, I think it was more than that. Is he felt compelled to make his friends whole. Like one of his friends had taken out a $20,000 mortgage on his house to put into this real estate house flipping venture. And when they lost it, he was like, oh my gosh, I've got to get this guy back his money so he has it for his family and his young son. And it was that compulsion to make things right and help people and lift them up and do what he thought was the right thing to do that really put him in that circumstance. I guess if we're looking at what would you do, I'd like to explore the mom, because she really wanted Rob to succeed in life, so much so that she suggested he start going by Rob instead of Deshaun, because Deshaun was known as the murderer's son, but Rob could be anybody. And Rob could go to a better school, and Rob could get into Yale. And she wanted him to succeed and get out of that situation and go and make the world a better place. And she even jokingly said, you have an umbilical cord to Orange, which is the area they lived.
Yeah.
And I'm not a mom, so I can only speak in the hypothetical here. But what would you do? I would probably follow a lot of the same things that mom did. Is you gotta get to where you're going sometimes, and then once you're there, then you can be like, okay, now let me help everyone in Orange. But he was trying to do it all as he went along, and his mom just wanted so desperately for him to have a better life.
Yeah, and I think psychologically this actually might have backfired on her more than she realized, because it's that natural reaction sometimes that when somebody's pushing you away, that you naturally push back. You push back in.
Yeah, and she wasn't pushing him as a person. She was literally trying to push him into a different neighborhood, into a different lifestyle, into a different level of living.
But I think in his mind that he thinks, okay, well, that's just another person giving up on the neighborhood. I have to have to try even harder. I think the best thing to do there is to attempt to lean into what he's doing a little bit and support him to a point, or try to support him by finding others that will do the things that he's doing. Like, he felt like if I don't do this, no one's going to.
Right.
So if she can help try to find someone who can do it rather than him, it potentially gives him an out. So if I'm her, that's probably I'm going to go.
I think sometimes you do have to deal with the hand that you're dealt, and this hand would be his desire, his deep need to serve the community. So if I had been the mom, I still think I would have done a lot of what she did. However, I do take your point. And maybe at that point, when you see that he's come back, he's trying to restore the neighborhood, he's trying to get people in houses. Maybe at that point, if it were me, what would I do? Maybe I would find some way for him to then turn what he was doing into a job, to then lift up someone else in the community to take that leadership spot, so then he could go on to grad school and earn his PhD, because he was devoting all of his time to that and was doing remarkably well in changing that community. But then also it all had a setback in 2008, and it was like he hadn't done anything.
Yeah. And again, as a guy who lived through 2008 and had spent years building a business only to see it virtually disintegrate. It didn't completely disintegrate, but my involvement in it disintegrated. After all of that work you put in, it's hard. It's really, really hard. And you want to keep it going, especially in his case. Like, I wasn't trying to help the neighborhood. I was just trying to make a living. And like, he felt like he was letting his friends down. He was letting his community down. He was letting a lot of people down. But let me tell you, first of all, when you're conducting business, you have to understand that if you're investing in something, investments can go south. And there's no such thing as a sure thing. I mean, you could have really close to a sure thing, but there's no such thing as a sure thing. Always invest with your eyes wide open and know that there is risk involved. Hopefully the person who's trying to get you in is telling you that there's risk involved and how much risk there is involved, but know that there is always risk involved. But two, sometimes shit just happens in this world that is way bigger than you. Way bigger than you. And there's nothing you can do about it. And you can't beat yourself up over it. Like, the 2008 thing hit millions and millions and millions of people. It's not like somebody screwed up. So
I think with most things, this is really about moderation. And if your drive is to help your community, to lift people up, my gosh, go do that. There's more people who need to do that. Just be mindful of not doing that to your own detriment, because it's very easy to always put other people ahead of yourself. And sadly, Rob really was a tragic tale of that, because in his quest to always put other people ahead of himself, he wound up...
got himself shot.
Yeah, got himself off the fast track at Yale. Even though he graduated with honors, his next step got taken away because of the drug dealing.
Yeah.
And he was murdered at the end. So balance, people.
We hope you enjoyed our episode. Thank you for listening. And to catch all the new episodes, please subscribe. We release 2 to 3 episodes weekly, so we'll have new content regularly. Until next time.